All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna start this budget workshop for April 14th. Douglas, would you like to start?
Yes. We'll just kind of go through this budget, little by little. It's a little bit different than the one I sent you earlier, not too much. I found an insurance line or two that needed some changes made in it. So I've got it up on the screen. If y'all are sitting on that side of the room, you might want to move. I don't think you can see unless you got a mirror or something. So we'll just start at the top. You know, the revenue numbers start with a 4 if you look at the top of the budget. And you remember the information that you got from Miss Bonnie. She sent you a copy of the budget. She's Friday, and she sent you some information with it too. Just keep that in mind. The first thing that we'll look at here is the property tax. There's normally some growth in that, but they're doing some kind of I forgot what Diane told me it was, and it's going to make it less, but they think the growth will make it neutral. So they're not expecting it to go up or to go down any. And then these are other numbers just based on what we've gotten that come in from the clerk. And there's the local option sales tax, which we know is up from last year because we got the extra %. And of course, the mixed drink, bank excise tax, marriage licenses, receipts from individual schools. That's mostly money where we collect from schools for bus trips and like class field trips and ball games where they have a bus. And that's where we put the money that we collect. And then the 5,000, we may collect some from 4-H or somebody for that. Miscellaneous refunds, that's just kind of a catch-all that we get, like if they sell scrap metal or anything like that, it's kind of a catch-all category. Sometimes we get some contributions, we usually do, and other revenues. Now, our March TISA estimate, you see there. And then down, the next one we're looking at is pre-K. And we don't know the amount. We know we've gotten it. We're hoping it's going to be a little bit more, but we don't know that. So right now we're just basing it off of that number. And then 6590, we moved the LEAP program up to that at the request of the state. So it's not down where it used to be. And under that, you have the Career Ladder program. And that was something available to teachers that they could earn several years ago. And those teachers gradually are retiring and so forth. And it's not available to current teachers that were hired after a certain date. So then we go on down to the revenue sharing and other state grants. And you may see I made the note there where we changed it from this category 47590 to the 46590. Operating transfers, that's where federal usually gives us some indirect cost at the end of the year. We won't know what that is at the end of the year, so you see the total estimated revenues. Then we go down to the teachers and the aides and the expenses that we have. If you notice, all those start with a 71, see 71100, that's regular instruction. And then these are the functions that are under that. But of course, we have increased the teacher pay to where it starts at 50,000. So of course, that's going to go up. Career Ladder, that's going down, but we've talked about that a minute ago. Homebound, educational assistance, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. I talked to Derek when I was figuring those, and the EAs that had already hit the 20-year mark, which is the top of the scale, we added 2% to it, where it just goes, they get the same thing they would have gotten if they were still on the scale, 2% more. Bonus payments, that's the differentiated pay plan. That's something that teachers strive toward every year to try to get. We don't know exactly what it'll be until up in the year. Other salaries and wages, that's where we put the tutors in. Miss Bonnie talked to you about that a few weeks ago. And she thought it would be about 89,000. Certified subs, and then Social Security, state retirement. Those lines are calculated based on the salary lines. And then the medical insurance, we're estimating a 6% increase. We have not heard yet. I have gone through to see what we spent on insurance this year. There were some lines where I needed to increase it because that's an unknown, because you can hire somebody and they either don't take insurance or they'll take individual insurance. And then at open enrollment time, they decide to take the family plan. And the family plan costs the board about $17,000 a year. So that can make a big difference in it. Unemployment is always a guess. There it is. Medicare, that's calculated. Hybrid stabilization, that's calculated. Tuition, sometimes we have to pay. So tuition for students that have a need that we can't meet, and they'll hire somebody to come in and take care of their problem. Contracted services, 399, that's where we pay for the classroom seats in the Niswanger company, where they provide online courses, and also we pay non-faculty coaches from that line. And then the instructional supplies and materials, that's where we send each school $200 per teacher. And there's some other lines, some other expenses that come out of that line too. Textbooks, $250,000. It depends on what kind of an adoption we have as to the cost of it, because your math and science textbooks and the programs that go with it cost a lot more than some of the others. And let's see, and under that is instructional software, and that's where Miss Bonnie asked us to put in the Mastery Connect and the iReady. I think y'all had talked about that. Then the other supplies and materials that don't necessarily apply to a student. And 722, that is spent by the technology department. That is where the Chromebooks come from each year. He buys several Chromebooks every year. In the alternative school, we have 2 people in alternative school, and this is just the salary line, and then the eligibility for bonus, and then the taxes and benefits that go with it, and medical insurance. Then we get to special ed. And you see the teachers, there's 2 special ed categories. This category has to do with where they, people that are paid out of this is, they work directly with the student. Anytime you see under the 7-1 series and the budget, that directly affects the student. If materials or whatever will go into students' hands. So you can see what goes on there. You got your EAs and your speech pathologists and the bonus payments, so forth, that goes along with that. Then vocational, you have your teachers. This is all pretty self-explanatory. You get down to the vocational 429 supplies. Miss Crystal allocates money to the vocational teachers at the high school. They get more money than the $200, because obviously a program like the carpentry program couldn't buy much in the way of materials with $200. They have to have more. So carpentry, the health sciences, agriculture, all they get funds from that. I think they get some from federal projects too, but this is money they spend through me. And then any vocational equipment. And this is attendance. This is Miss Stephanie and Miss Lisa Black's department. Half of Stephanie's salary is paid for there and half of Lisa's. And this is where the Skyward program, where we keep up with attendance and data, that's where it's paid from. It's from the 499 line item. Then health services, this is other half of Stephanie's salary, and then you have the nurses. And we talked about adding one nurse, so I added one nurse in there, and they started 29,000 plus the benefits. And then I came down to the medical insurance, and I found that we were a little bit short in that, so I added some, and then I also added a family coverage, because we don't know if you hire a nurse, they'll be eligible for insurance. We have no idea what they'll take, but they'll be eligible for any plan that we offer. And then the communication, that's the nurses' phones, and travel is travel for the nurses. And then drugs and medical supplies, they have to buy Band-Aids and wraps and all kinds of things.
And your travel may go down, if you hire another nurse,
Right.
because we wouldn't have that nurse commuting.
Right. That's true. And other student support, you got your guidance personnel here, your safety supervisor, the medical insurance, of course, the things that go along with it, evaluation and testing. And that's where you have that act, what did you call that, Brian?
It's the ACT
Yeah.
program that we do at the high school.
Equipment. Then you go to the 7-2 series. Now, these don't directly affect the student. They're most administrators or something like that. Like this is part of this is Marcia's salary here, supervisor of instruction and career ladder program. Then you got your librarians, instructional coaches, and then of course the bonus payments that go with that, and the travel that's involved with that. Library books, we send money to the schools to buy library books every year. Then you come down to special education. That's the other special education part of the budget, and that's the half of the director's salary, career ladder, and then your psychological personnel. And we added 1 month to Lisa Bennett's salary, where she'll have 11 months rather than 12. And of course, the benefits are all calculated, and the medical insurance thing that goes with that. Then the vocational director, this is Miss Crystal Kennedy. For the year we're in now, the ISM grant is paid for 75% of her salary. Next year, they're going to pay 50%, and that'll be the end of the ISM grant. But this is all has to do with her as vocational director. Then you got your technology department. They're on a scale, the people there are on a scale. And so you can see the expenses that go with that, and your internet connectivity, contracted services, cabling software. And we had to bump that 471 line up because of an internet filter that we have to have, and Power School. It's Bonnie might know a little bit more about that than I do.
And that's just a hiring platform.
Okay, that's right.
But the biggest cost was the internet filter that was up for renewal.
And then new equipment, new computers, they try to keep the computers current. They don't let them get but so many years old, they start replacing them, keep us current. And here's the board. This is the big salary line item for the board. And audit services, that's where we hire an outside auditor to come in. We have to do that by law, and they audit the school activity funds. If you remember last year, you change to the local government software for them, and I'm hoping that they will have a lot better year this year. Not that they've had that bad of a time with it, but I think this will make their accounting jobs easier. Then you have dues and memberships. That's like TSBA is the biggest thing there. That we pay for those dues. And then we have legal services. If we have to have a lawyer, which Miss Bonnie calls on a lawyer every so often, when she has something she needs advice on, we may not spend that much, but that's, you can see what we spent in 23, 24. But there have been times when we spent more than this. Building insurance, that's a guess because we haven't been billed yet for this year, but I'm just guessing at that, and the liability insurance. Trustees commission, they get a commission on of the dollars that come through here. They stay with the trustee. Then we have workman's comp insurance. And we have TBI background checks. And we upped that just a little bit because there's a new, Miss Bonnie might can speak to that. There's a new report we're getting from TBI on new employees.
And it'll just be a slightly increase until we get everybody in the system. And then it'll be actually cheaper at that point. But we did find a cheaper provider for our drug
Drug
screen.
test, yes.
So it's gonna offset.
Yeah. And other charges, that's advertisements of your meetings, reception that you might have, board retreat, expenses for that will come from there. Now, I guessed at this number, and you may, I know you haven't negotiated that yet under director of schools, but that's what I put. And that's, of course, any number in the whole budget we can change. Secretaries and clerical, they're central office employees, they're on a scale. And medical insurance, I changed that a little bit because our new director, I think, has a family plan. And our current director does not, so we know there's going to be some more expense there. And your postage, dues, and memberships, like her membership in the Tennessee Association of School Superintendents, and that kind of thing, and office supplies for the central office, communication, phone system for the central office. Then you come down to the principals, and you see the principals and the career ladder, and then look at assistant principals. We added a full-time assistant principal at Cannon County North, where we had a part-time. And if you'll notice, we're paying very close to the same amount for 6 assistant principals that we're paying for 5 principals. Of course, they're paid for 11 months, and principals are paid for 12. Then the school secretaries and bookkeepers, and the taxes and insurance that go with that. Communication, we pay each school one basic phone bill at the beginning of the year. Travel for the principals. We pay office supplies. We buy the report card paper for the schools. That's where that comes from. Then fiscal services. This is your contribution to the finance office. And the finance office, I think, is going to get by maybe with one less employee for the new year. And another one's probably going to retire. So that may make it a little different. So that's the reason, that's the number that Diane gave me. Then you got the operation of plant. This is $500,000 salary. Of course, your custodians, the taxes and things that go with it. Electricity, natural gas, water, supplies and materials, that's cleaning supplies, restroom supplies. Then you got your boiler insurance and plant equipment like floor scrubbers and that kind of thing. We bought some of those this year. Then you got your maintenance, you supervise, that's the other $500,000. And then the maintenance personnel, you got 3 maintenance guys, and taxes and insurance that go with that. Travel, we probably won't use that, but it's in there in case we need it. Contracted services, that's where we may contract with somebody to put in a new heat and air system in a school, or fix a water leak or gas leak, or whatever we might have to go along, and we have our maintenance supplies that, where we buy supplies at Ace Hardware and all kinds of vendors that sell pipe and electrical supplies. Other charges, administration equipment. Now, one of these is spent by the safety grant that's now rolled into TISA, but we still spend that money just like it was a separate grant coming in, because the way I understand it, we're required to keep up with it. Then you got transportation, that's the other half of Miss Lisa's salary. You got bus drivers, other salaries and wages. That's where bus drivers take students on trips. That's an additional thing besides their regular salary. And in Social Security and retirement, come on down to the contracts with vehicle owners. We have one less contracted bus driver than we thought we were going to have at the beginning of this year. Even though you've gone up on a new contract with them, it's still going to be a little bit less because you don't have that other bus driver that's owned by a contractor. Then maintenance and repair of vehicles, that's a new line item that we used to pay out of 453. So I moved that much up there, 100,000. Travel for Miss Lisa, she has conferences and things that she has to go to. And diesel fuel, that's another new line item where we used to pay it out of 425. We just moved some up there to diesel. But we do have some gasoline vehicles too, tires and tubes and vehicle parts. Then the insurance on the buses, other charges. I know I did a PO for her today for a gravel for a turnaround. We have to pay for that. Then the transportation equipment, that's your new bus that we buy every year. Then we won't have anything in food service until summer school. We don't know what that's going to be. Then this is the LEAP program, 73300. We know we've got it. We don't know how much, but we think it's $75,000 because that's what it's been. So that's what we budgeted in there.
At least for 2 more years.
Then we come to pre-K, and we talked about, we didn't know what the amount we were going to receive was. So we've calculated the teacher salaries and all the benefits that go with it, and then the supplies and equipment, food supplies, and so forth that they have to have. And if that grant were to go up significantly, we may be able to move some of the EAs back into the pre-K line, because it's a requirement that you have an EA with each classroom. But this year, general purpose budget's been paying for it. But we found at the end of the year, which we talked about at the previous meeting, that since we had a teacher that didn't take the insurance, and we had one that left and hired one that was on a lower level on the pay scale, we may be able to reimburse the board for pre-K aides. So that's a plus. Then capital outlay, we usually put $350,000 in capital outlay. Of course, we can move this money around within this category, $350,000. And then we have the EESI loan, which we're going to have for several years, but the payment's the same. So we're estimating our expenditures of $20,320,390. And if we spend everything that we think we're going to, we will dip into fund balance $1,431,000. I am reasonably certain we're going to increase the fund balance at the end of this year. So that will help us there. And you see, we've still got a healthy fund balance of $5,091,880. And that's the bottom line. If there's anything that you want changed or Any questions you have, I'll try to answer for you.
What is the ESO?
Energy Efficient Schools Initiative.
Mhm. Pains me.
Yeah, we're tethered to that, also tethered to some other expenses too. It was never a grant, it was a loan, even though it's a low interest loan. You can see the amount of interest we're gonna pay this year and next year.
That was done before any of us was over here.
Sir?
I said that was done before any of us was over here.
Yes. So, April, are you on board, Lisa? Okay.
Derek and Wayne came in Friday.
And whatever we do tonight, any changes we make, I won't make any other changes on it until we'll get another TISA estimate, and I will change that revenue to whatever the latest TISA estimate is. And should we get the pre-K grant, know what it is, of course, we'll plug it in, but it's a wash. You take it in and you spend it. It won't affect your bottom line.
We really watched our budget the past 2 years, and we've been able to end without being in the red. And I'm proud of that. So remember that. These are your estimates. What could be.
We always hope to take in more money than we estimate. We hope to spend less than we estimate.
We hope sales tax.
But it's hard to say what's gonna happen in a year's time.
I like the fact that we factored in the increase in starting salary raise for teachers. Thank you for making sure that was in there. That puts us ahead of some other districts at the moment that are close by and that are a little bit bigger than us. I do want to make sure, I also appreciate you adding in the AP at Cannon North. We do have still the space, am I correct, in this maybe this one and the answering this for at least I have librarian? at
Yes,
Cannon North?
we have someone employed part-time that will not be returning. And that's Miss Lisa Choate that's been doing some work at the middle school. She's not returning her contract with the other agency she works for. They're wanting her full-time now. So that's already in the budget under teachers, so it's a wash there. So that's in there. Also, the additional position, if needed, at the middle school, if you agree to that, that's already in. We already had some growth positions put in there, because you just don't know how many growth you're gonna need during a year. But we've not had to use that in the past couple of years. We've used it as an interim position when we had someone get sick and we had to replace someone for a longer period of time. But those were already in there. So we didn't do any kind of major increases there because they were already in our budget.
I think that would be great. Thank you.
It kind of brings us full circle. It brings it full circle for me because as a principal, I did not have an assistant principal. I did not have a guidance, a school counselor. I did not have a full-time nurse. And that was what I wanted to see when I went in to coordinate school health, because those are needed to provide the supports for a school that children need. And so that would be a great thing if we could keep it. Just want you to be aware. Don't want to be a Debbie Downer here. Met with the commissioner of education. She was at the meeting Friday, the director's meeting. And she wanted to caution everyone about, of course, we're not talking about federal funding here, but to put a word of caution that there's not been anything sent to them about any cut, but to be very cautious about your budgets this year, because the unknown is still lurking of what will happen with federal money. Remember, we have people that are tenured in these positions. And, but of course, you know, that would all play out if something did arise. But she said the money would come, but it would be in a block grant scenario. And the state would then determine how much you get and where it would go to. But nothing in writing at this time, but we did get an email saying, watch your budgets.
The more I'm into it, the more I see they don't give you increases, but they come up with these grants that you play the game to get.
Anybody else have any questions for Douglas, Ms. Lawrence?
Not paying employees that are over 25 years or over 20 years. That was included with the non-certified.
That didn't amount to very much money at all.
But we.
Yeah.
Did we, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead, I was gonna say.
are we still monitoring the lights that were put in at the schools? Are we saving money on that? And what about the gas too? You know, one time they said that was gonna save us money. Is it saving us money?
I haven't seen any significant
According to them, it
reports
is.
from them. According to them, they give you a nice little shiny
We have to
report.
pay
I don't care to say it, I'm leaving. They give you this nice little shiny report, and to me, they spend more of your money on that report than what we're getting back off of it. And if you really want to talk about it, talk to Melanie, because she gets a little upset that they didn't even meet with us this year to give us the nice little shiny report. But I mean, I'm not seeing. I think we've had some bills that were higher because, you know, I don't know.
Well, it's pretty good if I see, especially in water and gas, if I see something way out, I'll give it to her and she'll dig into it and
Oh,
find out
she
what's
saves
going on.
money.
So
She saves us money every day.
she saved more money than EESI ever will.
Yeah.
They're mad at us.
He's not,
Deals.
he doesn't send me emails anymore.
Any other questions?
I think Bill did want to say one thing to you about something that you may be presented with, and that's because of the new cell phone policy that you will have to approve soon for next school year. So, Bill, if you want to, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you. Here's a copy of the new state law that will be in effect July 2nd. And,
Thank you. Words.
you're not being in a hurry.
Already.
Okay. So anyway, there's the bill, or the law that's going to be, that has been passed and signed. So we'll be coming to y'all pretty soon, looking at policy. They're putting it back on all the counties to develop your own policy on how you're going to do this. So, and then with that, there'll be a couple of options that we can look at for y'all to see what you want to do as far as how are we going to take these phones up and how are we going to hang them and all that kind of stuff. One option, I guess this is just a good time just to throw it out there, but one option would be to, buy one of these for every child. Well, I'm sorry, middle and high school. Or we can always go with, any kind of configuration that you guys would want to because of the money. These are $30 per child. And so we're looking at middle school and high school roughly 1,000, so roughly $30,000. But it's a company, it's called Yonder, the Yonder bags. These will be issued to the kids. They keep them when they come to school in the mornings. Turn them off, put them on airplane mode, put them in the bag, and they keep the bag. It can only be released by a magnet. At the end of the day, that the school would have, teachers or the principals probably would have. So it's kind of quick release forms as they're leaving the school. So anyway, this is just an option for you. Well, I guess we can kind of get into that later. But like I said, the price on this one is, this particular option would be about $30,000. And like I said, we can always look at that as just the first year try one grade level, high school or middle, and then add in, or just go all out and get this thing done. But I think this option would help where teachers shouldn't have to mess with kids turning phones in. There is a policy already that they're not supposed to be out in class. But as far as helping the teachers not have to worry about this process every day and keeping up with all this, it's money, but this would be something to possibly consider, because the kids would come, they keep it. If it's damaged, they buy a new one. That kind of stuff, I guess, is what we all would look at for a policy. But anyway, just want to throw that up there, kind of plant that seed with you, let you kind of see what it is. Bonnie thought this would be a good time.
Do we kind of like, we buy these as like Chromebooks and turn them in at the end of the year?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
And so this, actually the law does state, not only cell phones, but it would be the watches, even talks about tablets, that kind of stuff, but I don't know how much of that.
That would be personal tablets, correct? It would not be their school issued Chromebooks.
Right.
Tablets.
I suggest, and we're not talking about policy tonight, but I would just suggest that you take a field trip to Warren County. I sat in on his presentation Friday. I told y'all at the beginning of last year, it was mentioned about it, and I said, let's let Grant Swallows figure it out, and then we'll follow him, and he did. He figured it out. And he presented to the General Assembly. He's going all over the nation now presenting. I will say that he told about the scenario of a board member that asked to be able to go in a classroom and do a little survey before they decided on what they were going to do. And so they went into a classroom and they had the teacher put, everyone agreed, the kids agreed to put their cell phone on their desk and to turn it on. Within a minute, there were 45 notifications that they had heard in that classroom. And he said, while I'm doing this presentation, my phone's buzzed 4 times and it's gotten my attention. He said, can you imagine the distractions that these are causing our kids all during the day? And so they went all in, and they've got statistics. Their discipline's down, everything's down. Academics is up. And so he did say there were issues, of course, black market magnets that are out there. They have a school of 1,700 kids. They have 6 magnets in their exits, and buses aren't late anymore. Now, at the beginning of the year, they didn't have the Yonder pouches, and it was a nightmare. He'll even tell you that. He said they got a system in place. About 3 weeks in, they were good. But our teachers have enough to stress about, and our principals do too. I think this particular thing would take that stress and burden off of them, so they can teach.
So Warren put it during the whole day, the whole school day?
Yes.
But the
But
law just says instructional time.
No, it says you can choose.
Okay, that's what
You can choose as a board. You can either go all in, or that's our policy we've got right now. And I'll tell you right now, You go in it, yeah, we all know.
I was
that.
just
If you-
curious of what, this is what it just said right here, that's why I was
Yes,
asking.
yes. There's,
We can make that
you can make
adjustment
that
in the policy.
decision, they're leaving it to the
Okay.
districts. And I think most people are going all in, they're just, you
I
know,
think you go all in because, quite honestly, from personal experience, if you allow during non-instructional time, a child at lunch or in the hallway, if there's an issue with a device or social media or any kind of smartphone issue, that's gonna bleed into instruction.
and that is their buds,
Yeah.
that's watches, that's anything. And they have a system for that. They also have a system for students that need them for medical purposes. They've got that worked out. They've done the work.
Yeah,
So,
the ones who are with medication or any other reason to test during the day, it's just a Velcro closure. And so they still put it in there.
but anyway, we're just here because of the dollar amount, just to be mindful of that. If you're thinking about that, we have safety money. Some of it's designated for things that we already have in place, but it might be a good use of safety money. And I know the governor is, in his budget, has some additional funds there, but I'm not sure if it's tied to metal detectors or something of that. sort. So, but we're probably gonna have some type of workshop or something in June to discuss this so that in July you can pass the policy and give everybody enough notice. But I think everybody knows it's coming. I mean, it's news.
Thank y'all for your time.
Think I'll fill in and meet tomorrow. Good.
Good.
So the supervisors have seen this budget, right? So are we presuming they're good with it? Or they got, we need time to bring something? Or they just send us something?
I think I appreciate it. They've all been part of the process, and as far as in my office, they've all known to be at the meetings, they've been given all the information.
Okay.
So I
They're
think
good
you've
with it.
gotten everything.
We have two principals here. Happy with.
I'll make them on.
Good, Doug.
Sure.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Debbie.
much. Debbie.
Thank y'all for watching.